Was that the best performance by an individual this year in Super Rugby from Ardie Savea?
In my way of thinking, arguably the best performance that I've ever seen in a Super Rugby game.
New South Wales need to be expelled from this competition, don't they?
Well,
they had all the resources, got all the players.
This is going to come down to round 16. Brumbies v Crusaders in Canberra. That's going to decide probably to second and third. That's conversations that we've been having here in Canberra for, I will say, 6 or 7 weeks now.
You've been riding this horse down the back straight. It's been wobbly. It's got a broken leg, mate. It's 100 metres behind the field, and you're still betting on it.
Welcome to the DSPN.
He's given him. Well, there you go. He was forward.
Oh, a punch up now in midfield. Fraser's involved.
The Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome to the podcast, people. Martin Devlin, Lachlan Waugh. It's Monday as we review Super Rugby Round 14. Tony Johnson from Sky Sport always joining us. Brett McKay out of Australia works for Rugby Pass with an Aussie perspective. We're also going to do our Super Rugby rankings as we always do on Monday, and a fair few changes at the bottom of the table. Thank you so much for supporting us here on the DSPN YouTube channel. The full podcast is available, audio version on Rover, Spotify, Google, Apple Play, wherever you find your favourite podcast, out every afternoon, every day during the week. Here on the DSPN YouTube channel, we slice it all up to bite-sized chunks for you to consume. And hip hip hooray and cock-a-doodle-doo, thanks to you. We have cracked 1 million YouTube views in 24 weeks of doing this podcast. So really do appreciate every single minute that you share with us. Click that subscribe button. It really does help.
Marty sermons brought to you by WebWonks. Generate online leads with WebWonks. Doctors for your Google data.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
We've learned a few things. Ardie is a giant. The Highlanders can't buy a trick. There's still a chance an Aussie team's going to finish second. And I still don't understand how they still on a weekly basis continue to cock up who's wearing what playing strip. Let's start with Ardie. Come on down, the Super Rugby Player of the Year. That's already been awarded to him. He's got enough votes and enough points. Can't be caught with 2 rounds to go. Without question, the best player in the competition. His performance Saturday night for Moana versus the Blues was Herculean. How else can you describe it? Rugby is not normally a sport where one man can change a whole game. It's too much of a team sport. There's too many players on the field for one guy to own a match like he might do, say, in football or basketball or baseball, even league, if you saw Latrell beat the Broncos by himself 2 weeks ago. But Ardie does do this. In fact, he does it for Moana every week. One man has completely changed that franchise, single-handedly dragging them into contention, almost willing by his efforts, his side to win games. And that effort against the Blues was extraordinary. He was Superman in a Moana shirt. Antoine Dupont, step aside. If Ardie is not the best player in the world right now, then who is? Meanwhile, the Highlanders have dialed up more bad luck or maybe more misfortune this season than anyone could think is fair. Fair is not a word that really is in sport very often, is it? Let me explain. They've won 3, they've lost 9, but 6 of those losses are by a converted try or less. Win half those, 3 out of 6, and they'd be scrapping for top 6. Sport is cruel. It's not meant to be kind. But this is a team I think that most of us do like and would like to be doing better than they are. Coach Jamie Joseph admits they need help with recruitment somehow. Who knows how? They've got to start getting better players wanting to go and play in Dunedin. If the question is, can the top of the table Brumbies finish the round robin 1 or 2? The answer is possibly more than probably. No points for the bye this weekend, and then they finish up home the Crusaders. The Chiefs, I think it's obvious, isn't it? Still well favoured to finish first. The Brumbies will have to beat the Cantabs to come second. I think they finish third. And finally, I've talked about this before and way too often. How do those in charge of these things continue to cock up who wears what playing strip? Case in point again, Friday night, Hurricanes Highlanders. Hurricanes traditionally wear yellow, Landers blue. It's a home game in Wellington, so there's no clash there at all, right? So why were the Canes wearing blue and the Highlanders Queensland maroon? You tune in and at first glance, it looked like the Blues were playing the Reds. It's not that hard. It really is not that hard. You make something so simple, so complicated, Super Rugby. Every week it's the same old song. I just don't get, how do these people continue to get this wrong?
Devlin.
Super Rugby rankings in after round 14. Now do remember that there is only one true rankings, and that's the points table. So these are the vibe rankings. These are what we feel should be the real rankings. The real ones go like this. The Brumbies are on top. What? 43 points, 9 and 4. Chiefs and Crusaders both on 41 points. Chiefs got the better points diff. Reds are in 4th, 32 points. Canes 5th, 30 points. MP, Moana Pasifika, are in the top 6. They've got a 6-6 record, 28 points. The Blues are at 7, 5 and 8, 28 points. The Blues have a better points diff, yet Moana are ahead. Yet hang on, the Chiefs have got a better points diff and they're ahead. So how does that work? I don't know. 8th, New South Wales, 22 points. The Force, 9th, 22 points. Drua, 10th, 20 points. Highlanders, 11th, 19 points. Those are the real rankings. But they're not the real rankings, Lachlan. These are the real rankings. Let's start at the bottom. Number 11. They were 11 last week. Your New South Wales Waratahs. This is their record over the last 7. Loss. 1 against the Chiefs. Loss.
Yeah, that's not a great record, is it?
In at 10, the Force. I had them at 9 last week. Draw. Loss. In at 9, the Drua, I had them at 10 last week. Win. In at 8, I had them at 8 last week, the Highlanders. Let's not talk about the record. It doesn't matter. The Highlanders are a better team and they should be in 8th, right? We agree with that?
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Okay. You agree that New South Wales are the new Georgia. In fact, New South Wales need to be expelled from this competition, don't they?
No,
they had
they're
all
not
the resources,
last.
got all
Hold
the
up.
players. When there were a 5th team was cancelled out of Melbourne, they all went to New South Wales.
No, they didn't. No,
Hang
okay,
on. I take it all back. They've got a great coach. They've got a great roster.
Okay, a couple of things.
You've been riding this horse down the back straight. It's been wobbly. It's got a broken leg, mate. It's 100 metres behind the field, and you're still betting on it.
Jeez, I tell you what, you're both ends of the spectrum here, aren't you? All I have said for the last few weeks is that I will defend this team to an extent on their ability to right the ship, to right their wrongs, to steady things, because they have a good coach and a good roster. I haven't said that they're a damn good side, they're going to play in the finals, they're going to cause some damage. I haven't said that. I've just said they've got a good roster and a good coach. They could come right. They haven't. Now, let's go back to that Chiefs game. The one area where I've liked them and you haven't is the fact that you said that their season would end at the hands of the Chiefs, and you got that wrong, all right?
I got that bit wrong.
No, but I'm just saying that you
I
can't
got the
sit
rest
there.
of it all right, though.
Yes, but since you have, and since all I've said is not that this team is good, that they could come good.
Okay.
So let's just
so
wait and see.
So what is your love affair with them? Because apparently,
of their roster. They've got some good players and they've got a good coach.
They're changing the name of a rugby league team north of the border to the Waratahs.
We're not talking about that team today.
Well, why not? Because your Broncos got the same record as this lot of losers.
Because I've kicked the Broncos out of the house. Okay,
really?
They were on the couch. They're out of the house. They're at a motel for the next few weeks.
Have you two broken up?
It's complicated. Anyway, back to the Waratahs. Yes, they've been poor. They've been very poor. And
season.
Shipping 48 points. Not all season. They started well and they've had some moments.
They've had 2 dodgy wins
Hold
together.
up. No. Hold up. They by the numbers, had a good season, a good start to the season,
4-1.
And then a very good win over the Chiefs. Since that Chiefs win, they've gone downhill. And you cannot ship 48 points.
Before the Chiefs win, they shipped 102 points to the Canes and Moana.
Let me finish. Exactly. And then they bounced back and beat the Chiefs, who were the best side on the comp. Probably the whole season they've been the best side on the comp. You've got to admit that was impressive. You've got to isolate that result. But if we can isolate this last month or so of footy, they've been poor. You can't ship 48 points at home and call yourself a good side. I agree. So the Waratahs are done and dusted and they're gone. But unlike you, I gave them a little bit of hope because they'd had some moments and they've got a good roster and good
So we
coach
had
as well.
about 8 weeks of this competition where there were 4 Australian sides in the top 6,
Yes.
right? And everyone was saying, oh my God, it's all changed. Australian rugby on the rise. Now you've got the Force in New South Wales at 10 and 11 on our rankings.
I'd still probably put the Enduro below both of them.
Well, they've just beaten both of them.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I win. But personally, I mean,
let's talk about your Broncos.
No. We talk rugby on Mondays. We don't talk league. When it comes to the Endrua, personally, I just think that they're not as good a side as the other two. But personally, you think that the Waratahs are the worst in the comp. It probably shouldn't even be in Super Rugby.
Well, I think the Drua have beaten both the Force and New South Wales.
It's a difference of opinion.
In at number 7, they were 6 last week. The Blues, loss, win, loss. Now, they can still make the playoffs because the thing with Moana, who are in 6th spot, who have won their last 3 games, they've had a bye in there as well, but they've won their last 3 games. The
2 of them on the road, by the way.
The difference is Moana now have to go to the Chiefs and then the Hurricanes. And I would expect the Blues to beat your New South Wales in that last game.
Excuse me, one on the road. Sorry, I got that wrong.
New South Wales got nothing to play for, right? So I would expect the Blues to win that last game and maybe pick up a bonus point. Let's assume that they do. That's 33. Moana are going to have to win one of these last 2 games, I think, to make it.
Yeah.
Because I do believe the Blues will actually win.
And they could knock off the Canes. That's the last game, isn't it?
That's the last game of the season.
The only thing that could really have gone their way is if the Chiefs game was last and the Chiefs had already locked in top spot and Clayton McMillan is playing a B and a C team, essentially.
So they've still got it all to do, Moana, but they put themselves in the driver's seat and it's theirs now, but they're going to have to produce their best effort of the season to win away one of those 2 games. Yeah. It's not out of the realm of possibility.
They did beat the Hurricanes on the shore earlier this year.
And comfortably.
While the Canes came back, but the score probably flattered the Hurricanes a little bit. The Chiefs, by that point, they'd still be fighting for top spot, and I would imagine the Chiefs will...
Well, they want to lock it up because the Brumbies, again, as we will get to this, have to win at home to the Crusaders to be able to get a top 2 spot.
Yeah. This is great.
It's brilliant, isn't it? It's all going down. Look, because okay, let's go up. The Reds I had at 5 last week. They're still at 5. They've had a bye, win-loss. I just kind of feel that they're going to be in the top 4 probably, but they're just not a threat. I mean, at the moment they're 4th on the table. I just don't think they're a threat come finals time, unless they got one of the New Zealand sides at home. They're not going to come here and win, I don't think.
Well, no, they needed to finish in the top 3 essentially, didn't they? And that's just probably not going to happen because the 3 will be the Brumbies, the Chiefs and the Crusaders in some order, you would think.
Yeah. Well, I think no, you're right. Yeah, because they've just got too much of a points lead. Yeah, you're right.
But the Reds, there is a gap. All season there's been a gap between the top 3 and the rest, it at least feels, and it's just the difference now is the Reds are not in that 3 and the Brumbies are. So the Reds can still, I mean, if the Reds are on the road to the Brumbies, I wouldn't count them out, even though they've lost both to the Brumbies this year. But if they have to come to New Zealand, no.
Okay, so the Brumbies are...
what they will benefit from, just quickly, is the fact that they could end up being the best loser. So they might still get to the semis.
The Brumbies are top of the table, 9-4, as I said, 43 points. But I've got them ranked 4th here. I've got those 3 New Zealand teams ahead of them. Yes, because...
Did you watch the Hurricanes?
The Hurricanes won.
Oh, they shouldn't. Okay.
But they won. But the Hurricanes went to Canberra and won that game well. They didn't... Again, I keep saying, it wasn't like they... clawed a win. They actually dominated the Brumbies that night. So then I have to put them ahead. But the Brumbies have actually won 4 out of their last 5. They've got some good form going into these last couple of rounds. However, they get a bye this weekend, then they get the Crusaders at home, right? And if the Crusaders lose that game, well, then they won't have a top 2 spot. So there's plenty to play for in that. It's almost like a quarterfinal before the finals. I've got the Hurricanes at 3. They've won their last 3. They had a bye in there as well. And, okay, it was scratchy against the Highlanders, but the Highlanders aren't a bad side. Lachlan, the Highlanders this year have lost 6 games by a converted try or less. Okay?
6 one-possession games, as they
pretty
call it
much.
in the NFL.
And I actually think 3 of those games have gone down to the last play or the very last minute or whatever. So it's not like they're a bad side. And they're always going to lift their game against the New Zealand sides, aren't they? So...
Yeah, they're just in a losing rut, though. They can't really get out of it. That's sort of their problem.
And the poor buggers, as Jamie Joseph, and this is what I love about Jamie Joseph, he's one of those rare guys in New Zealand rugby who actually says it. And he says, look, we just can't get the cattle to come down here. They need whatever it is. Dunedin's a great place to live. It really is. And you're only there for 4 or 5 months of a Super Rugby season. There's got to be some incentives for some players who are fringe squad players. Like I look, for example, the Hurricanes now have potentially next year 3 really good first 5s, right? Brett Cameron, Harry Godfrey, and also Ruben Love.
Well, if Ruben Love plays first 5.
So this is the kind of thing where you think that, players need to shift around. Or this is where we need, the thing to come in where any player can play for any of the teams in the competition.
Yes, this should have been implemented years ago. It should have a very long time. When the gulf between the New Zealand teams and everyone else was becoming a bit too obvious, they should have brought... But this is what NZ Rugby does. Unlike Australian Rugby League and the NRL, who have this really wonderful idea over for the Perth Bears with the Western Force. I love this idea. But I really do actually.
Did you hear what a lot of other people have done, though? They've actually applied to join the Bears Perth. Which is a completely different organisation. Don't Google it at work. Don't Google it at work. But the Bears Perth is not the Perth Bears, okay? Different kind of club.
Rugby is never innovative with their ideas. They always do things when it's a few years too late.
Yeah.
But I like this Perth Bears Western Force idea.
All right.
Sharing players, that is.
So I've got the Canes still at 3 because they beat the Brumbies, okay? And I'm convinced they're a better team. Even though they were, they won against the Highlanders. I didn't think they were going to lose that game.
Yeah, one's a win, I guess.
I've got the Crusaders at 2. And obviously the Chiefs at 1, even though the Chiefs had a bye. That game, the Crusaders in New South Wales, I mean, that is the kind of Super Rugby game where I can understand them up the Northern Hemisphere to snare their nose down at it. What was it, 146 played 122 or something?
It felt like
I mean,
if you cover, I used to do this when I was young and I wouldn't watch a game live and I'd watch the next day where I'd cover one side of the scoreboard and sort of slowly reveal it. If you saw 33 from the Waratahs, you'd be like, oh, great. Jeez, we might have got in some. Oh, 48.
48, yeah.
Okay.
So this is our rankings. Chiefs, Crusaders, Canes, Brumbies, Reds,
Your
MP.
rankings.
Blues, Highlanders, Druitt, Force, NS Dub. Question to finish with. Do MP or Blues take that final spot?
One question from me quickly. Repeat your 1 through 6.
Chiefs, Crusaders, Canes, Brumbies, Reds, MP.
So is that going to be your top 6 by the end of the season then? Or do you think the Blues get in there? I
still think the Blues... I want Moana to do it, but I just don't think they're going to win at the Chiefs this weekend. And then it comes down to the Hurricanes in that final game. If they can win on the road, they're going to deserve it. But I get the feeling I think the Blues might just pip them.
Yeah.
Might just pip them.
I agree. I think the Blues... I think the top 5 would be my 5, roughly in that order. And then the Blues will sneak in there, which feels wrong. Like my first thought... I was at the game live on Saturday. My first thought afterwards was... It feels criminal that the team that lost here tonight, who have had a terrible season by their standards, probably will still sneak in.
What a game that'd be at, eh?
Oh, I'm a Blues fan, sort of. No, I am a Blues fan. I'm totally Moana'd up now, though. The atmosphere is so much fun. And I think the game was close to, if not sold out. And so it was, there's more of a vibe there anyway. But just the fans are up dancing and singing and having a good time.
It's a different kind of rugby crowd.
It's
totally
just
different rugby
fun.
crowd.
It just feels a bit like a party. Whereas obviously when you're at the Blues games and you're at that Eden Park, which is soulless when there's anything outside
the
of an All
cemetery
Blacks
with chips
on.
is what they have. Isn't it? I don't believe that. I think it's a great ground. At
No,
Eden Park.
it is a great ground, but it's just unfortunate. It never sells out when it's not the All Blacks. It's when, there's fans like myself who are sitting there groaning like, oh, geez, the Blues aren't playing too well, are they? Oh, gosh. When you're at the MP game, like, I was up dancing at the end. I loved it. It was great.
This is the DSPN.